All right. So are we good, Neil?
You're good.
All right. Welcome everyone to the select board meeting tonight, Monday, November 7th, 2022. We are going to start with points of pride.
Sure. Oh, Neil.
No, I didn't.
Okay. I had a couple from prior to this weekend. The first was, there was a volunteer luncheon for the dial-a-ride people, and we certainly have to recognize those volunteers who do a lot for the town. And at that luncheon, we awarded the Boston Post cane to our oldest resident, who unfortunately is moving out in a few weeks. So we'll have to do it all over again. But I want to thank Neil for his presentation and everybody that was involved in that. I'd also want to thank Chief Hennessy for the article or letter he had provided, at least to Sue Covert, just giving an update to people in town about what the police department is doing and our new digital speed limit signs. And finally, assuming the consent agenda is approved tonight, and with the addition of Sarah Hoffman, who, for logistical purposes, we don't have her written application yet, but we've got a full contingent for the Energy Committee. So hopefully we'll be able to start pretty soon. And then the big elephant in the room we'll be talking about later.
Yes. We'll do our administrative agenda items and then insert an other before budget starts. Okay, thank you, Ken. Anyone else have points of pride? Okay. All right, first up is approval of the consent agenda.
Here, I'll move we approve the consent agenda of November 7th, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Next is approval of the public meeting minutes from October 24th, 2022. And I'm sorry, I was not at that
I
meeting.
want to add Sarah Hoffman.
Okay, if I can do that without having the application available.
If you want it, that's up to them.
I had
Silly enough to say yes, we'll approve it right now.
Well, thank you.
Who is she?
Sarah is, she's a Rotarian. She's lived in town for a number of years. And she worked as a consultant in the energy field, more in California.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Okay, so I'll move we add Sarah to the consent agenda.
All right. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. Approval of the public meeting minutes from October 24th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll abstain just because I was not there. And approval of the non-public meeting minutes, October 24th, 2022.
I'll move and believe they are not sealed.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll abstain since I was not there. Okay, so we have an other that we're going to talk about before budget presentations start. So I apologize to everyone who's here for budget, but I felt like it was, and I think it's unanimous, the board feels like it's important to acknowledge and discuss some really unfortunate events that happened over the weekend. So for anyone who's not aware, I'll just briefly explain what happened and then open it up for the board, if that's okay. Okay. On Sunday, I got a call from a friend who frequently runs on Pennacook Road, which I no longer travel very much because of the bridge closure. And she was really upset by having seen racist graffiti and racial slurs sort of all over Pennacook. And so she asked, what should I do? And I immediately went there and then called Neil. And then I connected with the Hopkinton PD. And in fact, a few people had already reported it to the Hopkinton PD. So I drove up and down Pennacook. And I will just briefly say what I saw because I think it's important to name it. There were many swastikas and the N-word written on pavement and just other gross things up and down Pennacook. And I drove the street and then I got out and walked it and kept noticing new places where evil hate speech was placed. Needless to say, it was incredibly unsettling and disturbing. And I just do want to say first, thank you to Neil, who helped navigate the situation and drove out and helped clean up and cover what we could. Also the Hopkinton PD, who were working on this and very responsive, and the Department of Public Works, I know they were out there today. And a couple of kind neighbors from the area who came out and were scrubbing the speed limit signs and the stop sign that had been defaced. And I guess I just want to say that, you know, I've lived in New Hampshire most of my life. I'm coming up on 8 years in Hopkinton, and I've never seen anything like this. And I mean, honestly, it sort of took my breath away, not in a good way. And, you know, I will say certainly these symbols and words, they're designed to target and intimidate certain groups. And as a community where all are welcome here and we embrace everyone, regardless of your background, regardless of your religion or race or ethnicity, sexual orientation, the list goes on. You know, as a community where we welcome everyone, this is an assault on our entire town. It is an assault on our shared values and values that we hold dear, living in a welcoming and open community. And I would urge everyone, you know, as horrible and gross as it was, to take note of this and to loudly and clearly condemn it. And I do think when we do not talk about what we see happening in our own town and acknowledge the despicable words and symbols that someone intentionally placed on Pennacook Road to try and intimidate and spread hate, we risk giving the impression that these things are normal or acceptable, and they are neither. The swastikas and racist slurs are wrong. They are symbols and words of white supremacists that are absolutely vile, and they will not be tolerated by this town. They are reprehensible, and I encourage everyone to talk about this, again, as horrible as it is, because we cannot root out evil if we do not name it and talk about it. And whether or not the person lives in town or doesn't live in town, or they're young or old or whatever, it does not matter. What they did was wrong and it was criminal. You know, I think people seem to think they can do or say whatever they want these days. And I will note, this is not free speech. This is not protected speech. This is straight up hate speech, and it is a crime that was committed by morally depraved cowards. And I will say, you know, we as a board representing the town are here to say, we will not stand for it. And I hope that in addition to us as town representatives, others will come together to defend our community and unequivocally condemn this. So, you know, it's hard to adequately articulate sort of how upsetting this whole thing is and how disturbing and really outrageous and extreme it is. And I do not want to give airtime to the cowards who did this, but I do think it's important to name it and acknowledge it. And again, to absolutely condemn it. So those are my thoughts for now. So I don't know if others.
I think that was very, very well said. I was certainly extremely disturbed. I've lived in town almost 33 years and I'm unaware of anything at all like this before. I guess I'd add that I believe there is a reward for information at this point. But thank you for everything you've done on this, Sabrina. Thank you, Neil. Thank the police department.
I don't have anything to add. You're both are a tough act to follow. Thank you for the words, Sabrina. It was really well said. And I totally agree. So thank you.
Mhm. Thomas, Jeffrey? Mhm.
I mean, what else can you say?
Yeah.
It's stupid. Doesn't make any sense. I can't imagine why somebody, I don't know anybody on Pennacook Road as far as I know. I don't know if it was targeted to somebody specific on Pennacook Road or if it was just, it's a dark place in the middle of the night. Let's go be idiots there. But yeah, it's just reprehensible is good.
So we actually have Andrea Folsom here with us, who has agreed to, sure, come on up, talk with us to be a representative of the school district. Because we have talked about issuing a joint statement together condemning this. So I circulated, or Neil circulated, something we had worked on, and I don't know if you all want to sort of go through that. It's not long. And we can make any changes and then sort of officially adopt it with the schools. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Superintendent Mike Flynn was sorry that he wasn't able to make it here. He wanted to come here tonight as well, but wasn't able to make it on short notice.
Do you want to read that?
Sure.
Don't print it to project.
I can pull it up. Okay, so this is what we have as a draft. The Hopkinton Select Board and Hopkinton School District stand together to unequivocally condemn the anti-Semitic and racist hate speech and symbols found on Pennock Road Sunday morning. Hate has no home in the town of Hopkinton, including the Hopkinton School District. As leaders and residents of this town, we urge our community to come together to speak out and take action against such acts. We recognize the pain and trauma that arise as a result of anti-Semitic and racist hate. We stand in solidarity with our Jewish and Black neighbors, and this hate crime will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So Andrea, you were good with that, right?
Yeah, and the superintendent was good with it as well.
Okay.
He felt it accurately reflected the school district's stance.
Again, thank you for doing this. I'm fine with it. I'm not sure if you got the spelling of anti-Semitic correct.
It's funny. That was my exact question. I thought it was hyphenated.
No, there's a different meaning if it's hyphenated.
That's why you're the elder statesman, Kevin.
No, I Googled it to make sure.
So that is misspelled.
Yes.
How is it properly spelled?
I believe it's IT.
Oh, submitted. Okay, yes, an I instead of an E. Okay. Okay, we can certainly fix that.
Other than that, I was happy, delighted you did this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's good.
So, I'm trying to recall, we did like a statement a couple of years ago, I think just the select board though. Did we just put it on our website and our Facebook page?
So once you adopted it, we posted it here and published it on both our website.
Okay. I meant to ask you this earlier, Neil, do we have like a correct, or perhaps you could help us put it on a letterhead that includes the schools and the town?
We'd have to create that.
Okay,
Let's see what we did. Well, we can come up with something.
okay. Are we good, just all of us agreeing? Or do we need a motion to officially adopt?
I think it has more weight if you make the motion and vote on it.
And I'll move we approve that statement with the spelling change.
Sorry about that. Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's
Aye.
unanimous. Okay, so we will get that on a document.
Yeah,
and we can
that's
send it to you.
Yep, and then it can be signed by both the superintendent and myself as well as the representatives of the district.
Okay,
Thank you guys very much.
thanks for being here, Andrea.
Thanks, Andrea.
So let's go and vote on that.
So it's not, this is not coming from the school board, it would be from the school district, office.
All right, so,
Weird when this board adopted it, but
yeah, okay, so we will, we'll be in touch with a document for you. Okay. So just briefly, I know we don't have anything on public comment here, but I don't know, I think if anyone's here to speak on this, I would invite you if the board's okay with that, if people have comments they want to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A quick comment, I think it's great what you said. This is terrible what's here, what's happening in this town, like, it's really bad. One comment to, one piece of wording in there where you say anti-Semitic and Black community. That's telling me, and you're doing it correctly, you're reacting to this horrible thing that's happening. If you maybe add something, we're reacting to it now, but going forward, we will not accept it into the future against, and you listed just these two groups, but all people of race, color, or something like that, maybe make it more general, bringing it forward that if this sort of stuff happens again, that we cannot accept it whatsoever. Your word is a little bit more reactionary, it's not going forward saying the buck stops here. And we get just like on that, but I think that the wording itself, the whole text is very strong, it's coming out very quickly, and that's fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks for that feedback.
Quite awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's or what the school board would want, but it's just my thoughts on it. Putting it out on the posting on the board or on the internet, I think is very good, and something as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Elizabeth, do you want to say something?
Here or there?
If you come up, then it catches you on the mic better.
My name. Do we need to say my name? Address? Just like enter Elizabeth Sides, 265 Crowell Road. I apologize. I don't usually write anything when I speak, and I typically don't speak at these meetings. I usually save it for the school board, which is always lively. But so I apologize for writing something ahead of time, because I didn't think I could kind of do a good job on the fly. Again, I usually speak at the school board meetings, but today is different. And I felt compelled to come before you and say a few words. The news that I received yesterday, along with, the whole town regarding what happened really shocked me. It's such a horror to see the photos of the racist and anti-Semitic words and symbols. And it's still disturbing and alarming today. And even for Brini to talk about it again, it's really sad. And I felt really unsettled yesterday, and I still do today. And I don't think I'm the only one. A friend of mine today said, we're better than this. And actually, sadly, we aren't, because it's here and we can't deny it, and we need to openly talk about it. So I'm happy that you're talking about it. I don't think that, having this uncomfortable conversation today or any day is something that we should avoid. We should talk about it with our kids, which my kids are here and they know about it. They don't know all the details about it, but they know that something really bad happened, and they know enough. And I feel like it's not the time for us to say we can't talk about it right now. or this will just give it life, we should just be quiet, or it was one really bad person or young or old who did it. It doesn't even matter who did it. It's that it happened and we need to talk about it. And I think that what bothers me even more, I'm not on social media. I don't check it, but I certainly have friends who do and who told me about how many townspeople were enraged a few weeks ago by the traffic calming, or were upset about the school board's opt-in flu clinic and wrote on social media, you know, awful things. Yet I hope those same people and everyone else in this town are really, really upset and enraged about this. Because if this doesn't get people upset and enraged, then I'm not sure what qualifies. And I hope more people talk about it. And I don't know how to do that the best way, but I'm sure we have people that do. So I encourage, you know, everyone to talk to their neighbor about it and their kids, because I certainly did. So I thank you to Brini and to Neil and to everyone else who cleaned it up and who have been talking about it, because I think this is a time, especially in where we are in our country, where we can't ignore it because it's not going to go away. Thanks.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate those remarks. Anyone else on this before we?
Say one thing.
I just want to say everything that you said was well from the heart and exactly how I think everyone in town should feel. You know, when I saw that this morning, I saw it for the first time on social media. I thought it was a different town, and I never thought something like that would happen in Hopkinton. One thing that was hard for me, and Elizabeth is right. We should talk about it. In the past, you know, we would shy away from talking to our kids about that because then kids would be scared. But it actually brought a lot of awareness in my house. It was, I would say, more tears. You know, I'm in my 40s, and to their father to have tears sharing that type of thing was really hard, because it's not something that I've grown up seeing. I've been here for 16 years, but it was also bringing awareness to my kids, talking about it, because it's stuff that they're going to see through their lives. It is hate, and it's not appropriate in this town, a town that we all love. So thank you to the school district and to the board for making a statement, and their kind words, Elizabeth, and your kids being here to see you as a role model, being up here talking to the board, I think was great. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, Norm.
I have one other thing on this, Bring, but it,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, I'm glad you brought this up. I forgot about this.
Yeah, so when this happened, you know, I was talking with friends and neighbors about how shocked we were to see this in our community. And one of our friends comes from a Jewish family. She herself is not Jewish anymore, but she let me know about this global campaign of solidarity against anti-Semitism, racism, hatred, and intolerance. And it's called Let There Be Light. And it's celebrated or acknowledged, probably a better word, on November 9th every year. And it marks, and I'm going to say the name wrong, Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht, good, thank you. Which was, you know, called the Night of Broken Glass, which was when there were thousands of synagogues and Jewish institutions which were destroyed. And the campaign of Let There Be Light, it asked for people to leave the light on November 9th, to just stand in solidarity with the Jewish community in acknowledging what took place, you know, 80 some odd years ago, back in 1938. And so I would propose that the town agree to leave lights on November 9th, and also those private people watching as well to join this campaign. And if you want more information about it, The website that has some information is motl.org.
Thanks for bringing that up, Stephen.
There's a hand raised.
Oh. Okay, yeah, let's. Debbie, we can't hear
I
you.
think you're muted.
Still muted.
We can't hear you, Deb. Oh, okay.
Thank you. I would just like to say thank you to the select board, Neil, and the school board and our police department, but especially to all of you this evening for making this awful incident that has happened a priority this evening to discuss, but also to take action to prevent further incidences. And we've lived in the town for 18 years, and I feel the same as everyone else. It's disgusting, but it's also heart-rendering that this has happened. I'm just shaken, and I just pray that, things will get better and people will get the message. This is not the town for things like this to happen. And I will have my light on, Steve, on November 9th. Thank you all.
Thank you, Debbie. So, Stephen, is this something we could officially adopt?
Well, I don't know if there's anything to adopt per
Okay.
se. I think it's just a commitment to leave the lights on at the town hall during the evening, which we may actually do anyways. I don't know. But at least at this particular night, it's not just a matter of course. It's
Right.
because we're standing in solidarity
Yeah,
with the Jewish community.
yeah.
So unless there needs to be more discussion, I would propose that, we agree to leave our lights on that evening for that purpose.
I'll certainly second that and suggest maybe the schools may consider the same.
Mhm.
I'll pass on the word to the superintendent.
Okay.
The board won't be meeting until after.
The high school will be lit up anyway.
Well, that's the 8th.
Oh, that's the 8th,
Let's just leave them on. All right, thank you for bringing that to our attention, Stephen. And thank you, I think Debbie's gone, but thank you, Debbie, and everyone else who came in to comment. Appreciate it. So, all right, I think that's that for that other. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Norm. So that brings us to budget presentation. So thank you, everyone who's here for budget stuff, for giving us the grace to take some time for that. So we will start with Karen.
Good evening. Would you like me to just start?
I think we can just
Okay.
jump in.
Tonight I'm here to discuss with you the planning and building department's budget. The budget right now proposed 2023, as you have in front of you, is $151,043. Of that budget, the operating part of it is actually $24,541. It's a reduction proposed of a little over $1,000 for 2020. So I'm going to talk to you about the 24,500, which is the items that make our office function, telephone, computer software, and so on. Line item, and please feel free to ask me any questions or interrupt me. And
Thank you.
it's most of this is pretty straightforward. Line item 341, which is telephone. The change is due to we ended up getting our building inspector away from the flip phone Um, because he does receive emails, 5 days a week if the residents wish to email him or contractors. And he also responds by way of texting. So we moved to the iPhone. So that's the increase there of $72. 345 is the line item for computer software. That was a slight increase of $190. And if you had a chance to look at the detail notes, that is the ISRI GIS support, cartographics website support contract, the query manager, our avatar software, which is our building and planning software. And that is the estimated increase for 23. The next item, which remains the same as Registry of Deeds, which is line item 346, $75 is the same. That line item is usually if we've got to record something on behalf of the planning department or the town that is not refunded, or we go and get copies of plans or anything that we don't have access to electronically. Line item 390, which is professional services. That line item has been over the last many years, roughly 4,500, 4,750. Last year, I'd asked for 11,950. It was which covered scanning of files, the scan for the file cabinets that we have. We have 2 5 drawers and 6 boxes, banker boxes upstairs. To scan those was roughly around 15,000. The line item, again, was cut 2 years in a row. This year, I haven't had an opportunity to look into starting that work, but hope to have a contract and encumbered that money before the end of the year. That line item also covers things that are not covered when an applicant submits an application before the board, planning boards or zoning board of adjustment. And that's if we need professional services on behalf of the planning board. It also covers the remaining chapters of the master plan, which of course it's not going to be enough, but that's what it's intended for, which includes the community facilities chapter, the natural resources chapter, implementation chapter, and the build out, which needs to be done. Again, I didn't ask for what I asked for last year because 2 years in a row, when I asked for the amount of a little over 11, it got cut each year. So I'm down to bare bones and I will end up having to pick what to do. I'm hoping that the build out will be paid for by Invest New Hampshire grant as part of the housing. The community facilities chapter, we will end up paying for Regional Planning Commission if we end up going with them instead of an outside agency. They've agreed to possibly help fund that. And the natural resourcing chapter will be dependent upon the Conservation Commission finishing up in April their wetlands inventory. So we hope to incorporate that, all of that into one review of the chapter and what their findings are. And of course, the most important chapter will be the implementation chapter. The planning board this year, early this year, agreed each year to work on one chapter at a minimum, 2 chapters update. So what we will do is we'll get through this one cycle and then start all over again. It's recommended every 5 years you update the entire master plan, but we do not intend to do it over one time every 5 years. So, sorry for that lengthy explanation. Travel and meals, that is up. Again, that actually covers, well, my travel I do not put in for, but that covers actually for the building inspector's travel. My estimated increase, as you can see, is $1,027. Currently, just as a kind of side funny thing, we have a couple projects going on the other side of the bridge. That means it has to go into the town of Warner Webster, go across to get over to the. So,
Till next week.
yes, thank God.
Friday.
Yes.
This Friday?
May 11th.
This Friday.
Oh, good.
So what I've been trying to do is schedule a couple at a time, or at there, but yeah, it's funny. When I explain to him where he needs to go. Planning conferences and training, of course, with COVID 2020 and 2021, we did nothing. We haven't had an opportunity to do anything this year. Printing, which is line item 550, the increase is $50. I'd like to add another $50 to that to make it 300. I just put in an order for our, and again, as the explanation shows you, for our inspection reports and verification forms and the baggage, the bag that they go in and so on and so forth. I'm hoping that'll last me for 3 months, but I'm not really sure. So just to be on the safe side, I'd like to increase that. And dues and subscriptions, that actually covers the handbook that we get from Regional Planning Commission annually. We pay for with all the updates of the laws. And it also covers our annual dues with Regional Planning Commission. And then lastly, line item 625 postage, there's a significant decrease. I think, and Neil, correct me if I'm saying something wrong. I think Neil and I have had a brief conversation. Kelly's giving us, the finance director, where we are today, and it appears we may have added too much postage to the machine. So in addition to that, a lot of the information is sent electronically nowadays on the building permit. I asked the applicants if they'd like it by mail or email, and most of them prefer email. And then I think I missed the advertising line item, so I apologize for that. That's 555. So legislature changed the law with respect to planning and zoning, having to advertise in a local paper. And so as long as you have it on the front of your website, so it's easily accessible, and posted in 2 other public places. And at this time, we're going to go with what the law requires and reduce the advertising. But I did put advertising in there should either board, for example, zoning amendments and things like that, ask that I use the local paper, Concord Monitor. And then lastly, I always give this to you, revenues. I just ran revenues. Last year at this time, we were around 50,600. And this year, I think I just did it, find it here, and we may be at 58,000, somewhere around there.
Is that mostly from increased activity or because we raised the fees?
No, yeah, both, I would agree, both. Actually forgot we raised these.
Karen, is that 58,000 just building permit fees?
No, it's
It's-
planning,
it's all
zoning,
four.
board of adjustment, correct, all 4. And it's funny, I just calculated the number and
It's 3 different lines.
yes. Planning, zoning, and the building permits, and if I sell any ordinances or regulations, which I think I've only sold 1 in 3 years. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Again, I think the standout item is the professional services. I'd be happy to bring you in more details as far as costs, quotes. Again, it will be dependent on if we do regional planning. Usually a chapter is around $3,000. My share is usually around, depends on what they have for funding available, maybe $1,800. But again, I'm trying to spread that money out.
On the building inspector, there's a decrease for the building inspector. Is that
We
less
talked about that.
hours? What's,
I don't recall, so I'm sorry, Neil.
Last year was budgeted for somebody to do backup.
Oh, yes,
And so that was scheduled this year. So
Yes.
it's the same,
Okay,
same fee. There's just.
no backup.
It didn't turn out to be a need.
Yeah, the backup. So yes, we added wages for that person to have support.
And we've looked that up like six
Six
times,
times.
so I'm glad I remember.
Oh, and I'm like, they're gonna ask.
Yeah.
You ask, I'm like,
Thought I asked, so you guys could answer.
oh, and I forgot all about the flip phone. So he said, Neil, why is there such a, remember, switch from the flip phone to the iPhone? You know, these important things.
Is your department seeing any slowdown recently because of the increase in mortgage rates?
I guess if my answer to the question would be new homes, I would say no. But when somebody having the electrician, plumber and the HVAC person go to their home for something, yes. Usually we're inundated with those daily. But I have a new home permit I just issued today. I have one pending, the inspector's review, and I think I have an ADU coming in.
And does the building inspector work 16 hours a week, or is that just an average?
I have the inspector for 2 days. So to be honest with you, some days, some weeks, he probably works more, and other weeks he may be just that. Because he's available 5 days a week.
And to the extent that there's a slowdown, you still need them as much?
There isn't I don't know how to answer that question because we're not at a slowdown right now. I have 17 new home permits open for inspections right now. And that doesn't include the 300 and some odd permits that are from last year and this year that need inspections. So it's not just going to a property once. We go and do a rough electrical for your basement reno. Then we do a rough framing, and then we do an insulation inspection, and then, so it's multiple inspections. Do I anticipate we'll need him in the next couple of years? I don't know.
Fair enough.
There's a pretty big lag time before that would drop. So just based on
I can-
all the permits that are outstanding.
If you look in, I'm gonna say, any of the websites that people post employment, including NHMAs, everybody's looking for a building inspector, it seems like, and trying to, Henniker tried to get our inspector to go over there, and they're trying to, get inspectors. Right now, Dumbarton was working with somebody out of Massachusetts that was just doing it by way of pictures because they couldn't find somebody. So it's been, Hooksett, I think, was looking for somebody recently. They're all looking.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So we're lucky,
Yes.
the inspector we have.
Especially being available Monday through Friday. He's available Monday through Friday. He physically inspects 2 days a week.
Okay.
And he's available not only by email, but by telephone to anybody Monday through Friday.
Well, overall, certainly, thank you for coming in with a budget that's a decrease.
I thank probably to Kelly for going through the postage for me and, a couple other things that she's come up with, so.
Any other questions for Karen? Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. You guys have a good night.
You too. Next, we have Kelly for finance.
Page 50.
Thank you.
And before I start, I just want to mention for the postage, so like a reserve that we hold on the postage machine, so we didn't necessarily overpay, we just had more of a buffer than we probably needed in there, so we're just reducing that.
Okay.
So my budget, I put in for $135,712. That's a change of just under $1,500. The telephone line, I just kept the same, which is 341. So that'll stay at 500. The computer services, line 345. That is our financial software. And that is staying the same price this next year as it was this year. The reason we were a little over budget this year is we had a little bit that we had to pay to Unismart as we ended with them. So we won't have to do that next year. I left the 530 for travel and meals the same. 540 for conferences and training. I did increase that by $75 to cover the New Hampshire GFOA conference. That's one that I've been to before and I got a lot out of, so I really would like to keep going to that and stay up on all the recent changes. The audit expense is staying the same this year. The letter that you guys signed for the 3-year engagement will guarantee us that price for 3 years, which is good. That'll be a cost savings. The asset expense, I kept the same. I need to look into more on, I want to talk to our auditors too on why we were doing that, not in-house and why they weren't a part of it. So I just wanted to check with them, but I left it the same for this year. For now. The bank fees stayed the same this year. They're a little over. A lot of that has to do with just stop payments on checks and things like that. And I don't anticipate that will be over next year. The budget committee expense, I left the same. And the biggest change that I had was on line 621 for the postage and copier contracts, because we had to redo our copier lease this year, and that went up quite a bit. So that was that change.
Kelly, on the fixed asset expenses, when do you expect to be able to have any further information on?
Our auditors are coming later this month to do the pre-audit, so I plan to have that conversation with them. But I'm kind of assuming that we'll probably still do that for this year at least, just to keep that consistent and then address that later.
Ready for personnel?
Yeah, I think so.
From who are we talking about reval of property?
That would be me.
Oh, okay.
That's 7
Okay.
or thereabouts.
And ideally,
You good with me on that one, or do you?
Well, we can sort of tag team on this.
The personnel?
Yeah, so merit pool is in there at the 6.5 is set. Health insurance, the guaranteed maximum is 9.7%. But with our adjustments, it's actually 4.6%. Dental dropped a little, that didn't actually drop, it was 1.5% increase, but when we made the adjustments and different staff. Everything else in here is largely same. Personnel and administration did go up. That covers the Medicare and Social Security costs for the stipends. And because we have more stipends,
Which line item are you talking about?
that is 4155 220. Personnel admin.
Oh, okay.
So we have more stipends, but that actually, even though that went up, that saves something. I don't know. Unemployment insurance actually dropped. Workers' comp actually dropped, so that was good. Life insurance went up. Kelly went through and made sure, well, life insurance is 15,000 per month, so that went up just, oh, actually, that dropped. a little,
Yeah,
didn't it?
the one that went up was the line 215, the long-term disability one. That went up because we just needed to update some salaries in there because I just.
Bound salaries and payments, that was done. That life insurance didn't go up because it's a set amount, it's not an amount based on salary, actually dropped slightly. Education and training went up just to cover ongoing training. People are back to going to trainings in schools and things like that, as listed in our personnel policy. Advertise the state. So that's
Under the 551, the training and education, in 2020 and 2021, there was $0 and $495. Were their expenses actually incurred for that and booked to a different account in those years?
no, there was COVID, so nobody was going to trainings.
So what's the jump though for 2022? It's showing almost 1,000 for year to date, but then it will jump to 5,000.
Yeah, based on people who are, that's the educational reimbursement line.
Oh,
So we have more people doing that.
okay.
And going back to health insurance, have you had an opportunity to look at potentially other providers might be able to get a better feel from?
We did meet with other providers last year and in the spring. We'll do that again. But we found that they're pretty consistent. We also have found that we're kind of in line with where other towns mostly are. And to keep staff, I think we need to stay in line with where other towns are.
Mhm.
I'm not suggesting cutting benefits,
Right.
of course.
Right. The next one is property liability, which is actually up a lot because insurance, property liability insurance is up a lot. Primex got hit with a huge increase. That's on page 23.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. Done.
So that's a known dollar at this point.
Yeah, those are all, that is.
What were you saying, Neil? What Primex got hit? Did you say?
Yeah, so they carry insurance. Is that what it's called? Almost like it didn't sound right. So catastrophic losses are paid because they're a risk pool. Catastrophic losses are paid by their additional insurance, and those rates have gone up dramatically. The last time we looked, Primex was substantially less expensive. There's really no one out there because they're a risk pool, and our liability is much less if we're in a risk pool because if we go out to a commercial insurance company.
You'll notice that was one I didn't even ask about.
Yeah. It's the other areas, principal and interest, which is page 41. And this is long-term debt. Principal payments actually dropped 27,000. And interest. Actually, principal payments are up 19,500. I think there's a blip because of the new bond. And then interest is down 27,000. Okay. So, what who we talking? I lost.
Thank you, Kelly.
Kelly.
Neil?
So does that mean we can move on to human services?
Yes.
All right.
35.
All right. Hello.
Evening, hi. Right, so. So going through administration, I guess you'll just see reductions. So for travel and meals, I think it's twofold, that just the fact that I'm located down in Kentucky as opposed to Hopkinton. When I do go see clients, they tend to be down in in Kentucky, so I have a little bit less mileage related to that. And then because of COVID, I wasn't doing quite as many home visits at the beginning of the year. And likewise for going to conferences, I found that, so even though my expenses year to date are 120 for conferences and training, I am asking for the 290, and you can kind of see that spelled out there. Because the second half of this year, conferences have resumed, so I've been able to attend some. Right. And then under the general fund, I guess I don't think it says year to date what I've expended. So,
19,000. That would include anything today.
okay, yeah, so
Through last.
okay, so I was projecting that year end will be at $27,825. So that is given just what 3/4 I had spent, and then using that same quarterly amount to project year end. And then once you overall factor in monies that have been made available to residents in our community who I've assisted with the emergency rental assistance program through the Community Action Program, just clients that I have worked with, I'm aware of a total assistance from CAP for those households in the amount of $30,471.52. So when you look at my projected year end and then what CAP has provided, and those are all individuals and households that would have qualified for assistance through the town if the ERAP program had not been available, so it would have been out of my budget. That brings us to a total of about $58,000 for year end. So that's where I came up with my overall figure of the general fund for next year at about $60,000. And just to make note, the emergency rental assistance program officially ended as of October 21st. So anyone with existing applications at CAP will continue to go through the process of approval or denial, and monies are available to be issued for anyone currently having a pending application, but no new applications are being accepted at this time. And then to break that down, I have projected year end other or food at $2,200. So I was asking for $2,500, and I'm finding that these are families and households that are already accessing the pantry and or have SNAP benefits. And with the increased cost of food, it's just not enough for them. So they're coming to me for additional assistance with food. And then housing. Where did I have? Year end, I'm projecting about $16,000 worth of assistance from housing, but CAP's assistance was just over $28,000. So that puts us about $45,000 between those two. So my ask was $45,000 for that line item. Heating assistance, I'm at just over $3,000 as of at the end of third quarter. So I'm projecting at the end of the year being about $4,500. And with the increase in oil pricing, up until, what was the date the fuel costs changed for the town?
July 1.
July 1. So up until July 1, we were at a different rate for the fuel assistance. So since then, any assistance that's been given out is at a higher fuel rate.
It was $1.98 and went to
$3.59 a gallon.
$3.59.
So just that difference as well. So even though my heating costs are coming in at about 4,500 year end, I'm asking for 5,000. There are some donated, there is some donated assistance available that I can make available as well. So that's why I'm not asking for more than that in my budget. The electric, I'm expecting year end to end up around $3,685. And that again is also, I've had an increase in people looking for assistance since rates went up in August. And I know that CAP with clients that I have worked with has provided $1,596.52 of assistance through the ERAP program. So that brings us up around $5,300 for the year. And so I'm asking for $5,500. And then under other, I'm expecting to end up right around $1,500 for the year, with knowing what I have for some pending expenses in addition to what I've already spent. And so, and by pending, I mean vendors that need to still send me bills for services. So my ask is $1,500 or $2,000? $2,000. Okay. That's where I came up with that number.
Well, thank you, Alicia.
Sure.
So the cap money that you referred to, that's just one time.
Well, it no longer exists. So, I mean, I do refer residents to Community Action Program for their ongoing annual fuel assistance and electrical assistance programs. So if people qualify there, they can get that ongoing. This is specifically the emergency rental assistance program that was part of the COVID relief money that was made available from the federal government. And that's what's officially ended. And so that is the money. So I'm not including what CAP, and I think, did you already get a letter from CAP when, because we've got a line item as well,
Requesting the 50.
requesting the 5,900. I think they break down how much they pay.
We've received.
We haven't received it yet. So CAP will send a letter to us and it spells out how much they have provided to our community in what's called their regular fuel assistance, electrical assistance, and programs like that. So that's completely separate from the emergency rental assistance program, then, which is that COVID money.
And I understand why there's a lot more pressure on whether it's food or electricity or whatever. But you mentioned getting some donations that would cover some. What kind of reserves do you have?
In the donation account, I don't have that figure off the top of my head. That's something.
No.
Okay.
Because those donations would be from private organizations.
Correct.
Whatever.
Right. Yeah. And I guess I need to readdress. I guess we were talking about not quite in this new computer system that I have access to see it on an ongoing basis, or is that still the case? Okay. So I can always call Kelly and ask, if the funds are there and available, but.
Because I'm just wondering if, because individuals or institutions realize that there's going to be that much more pressure, will there be more donations coming in?
Oh, correct. Yeah. I do, but from the last time I looked and what was in there, and this was in the summertime, it's decently funded. It's going to be a matter of how many requests that we have for assistance for the upcoming heating season.
I guess if you could get some more information and have Neil provide it.
Okay, sure.
Come back.
Yep.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have recreation, Paula.
Page 36. Application services.
Perfect.
Okay, so going down each line here. Let's see, so Kimball Pond wages. I think we always start with the discussion of lifeguards. Here we go. As you can see, the amount that was spent this year was not nearly as much as what was budgeted. Last year, if you recall, I came to you asking that we increase the wages that we pay, which we went up several dollars to be competitive with surrounding communities. We started off, I was able to hire full staff, and we had a couple that did not end up working. So we did not start the season full. We had 3 weeks probably of maybe just 1 or 2 people on
Oh, wow.
staff. I know, and one, there were a couple days when I was that second person. So it's tough again. So I guess my thought to you is that even though we have increased the wages, which I think is a good thing to be competitive. I mean, we were not paying very much to begin with. We still were not able to fully staff the pond. So as a discussion point for you, I guess, there are other options we could look at. We can continue the same way, but you know, I did indicate if we can do it, maybe that would fix the problem. This year it did not fix the problem. So will this situation ever be fixed going forward? It could just be the new trend. We are always going to encounter this situation. Which then, you know, the overtime line there is actually lifeguard wages. So when the 2 staff that were there that week worked, they were working overtime, more than 40 hours a week. So, but we weren't paying the other 4 people that, you know, that could have been scheduled. So, so I would say, you know, we spent about $20,000 on lifeguard wages, this year. Still, you know, requesting 28 so we could go forward full staff paying at a competitive rate. Let's see here. The rec part-time wages, they were up. The school had not budgeted for the field liner for part of the year. So that was in there. So really the $600 that's being requested is for what was in the past the ice clearing. I also am requesting that we go up a little bit on the wages there from $12 to $15 an hour, which our ice clear does not work that much. So that increase in pay is indicated in the 600. Let's see. Criminal records check. So we are going to do local background checks for people who are under 18. Correct. So we will not have to submit that paperwork to the state, which is much more expensive to do that. So I expect that we can save some money by just running background checks locally for people under 18. Travels and meals, same. Training, same. These subscriptions are going up just a little bit, and I think there was an increase in just, you know, everything goes up by $20. Office supplies. So that's going up just a little bit. I do have a coworker now in the building, so we use a little bit more paper. So that's indicated there. The copier maintenance goes up every year by, I think, like $30. So that is indicated. Postage. I have postage going back up. Just a couple years ago, we had it much higher, and I've cut it every year. We used to send out a lot of postage for July 4th, requesting sponsorships, advertising. So I would like to put money back into that account. It's not nearly where it was before, but I would like to add back into that.
What was it before it got slashed so much?
I want to say, I think it was over $1,000. I can't remember quite off the top of my head because we had a year of not running July 4th, COVID. It's been about 3 years now. So, let's see, field materials, the same. We had a donation this past year, so we did not have to use that account. And Kimball Pond water testing. Since the state no longer does our water testing, I send it out to a lab, which is cheaper than the state, so that does save a little bit. And then rec special events, I'm asking for the recreation committee events to have financial support to promote their events in town, which is something that we have never asked for before. And I think that, so I also want to bring up one other thing that's not. So the skate park, the other hot topic. So last year, I had spoken to Dan Blanchett and Greg about the condition of the skate park. Every year I get comments, phone calls about the condition. It desperately needs an overhaul. We've been piecing it together. The rec department has had a very small amount in the rec maintenance fund. We've been putting a couple pieces of skate light to it every year. But the foundation of the wooden structures is very poor. And so in speaking with Dan and Greg, they would prefer to go with ramps with a system that was made out of concrete. It seems to be the trend that parks departments are going with for sustainability. But the downside of that is much more expensive than structures. So there is a CIP request in for that money for whenever we can look at that. However, I did not go in to speak to the CIP committee to discuss that. I don't know exactly where it is in the plan. However, something to go forward if you all want to consider going that route is that American Ramp, and that is the company that I contacted when I was calling around. They have a contract that they had sent to me in order to get the process started. It's if I can find it, it's their design contract. And so if we would go forward with the cement or the concrete structures, they would need to come out and do a design. They would meet with an interest group here, gather data, what do we want, that sort of thing. And then they would go forward with putting together a conceptual design, $9,000 for this. So so that request for $9,000 is being asked. I'm not quite sure where Neil, I've requested that of Neil, so I'm not sure where.
Under
you will-
recreation
okay.
facilities maintenance trust.
There you go. So I would say if the board is, and you talk to Dan tomorrow, I believe. Yeah, highways tomorrow. So,
Next week.
Next meeting,
next meeting.
please not tomorrow.
Well, maybe.
You don't
well, tomorrow.
So if after talking to him and you're in agreement, you want to go forward with the concrete, I would like to ask for that $9,000 so we can start the process along to get this in the works. if that's not the route we want to take here, I don't need the $9,000 for the contract. So that
Any
is.
sort of order of magnitude number to construct.
It's in here for 300.
Yeah.
300,000.
300,000.
Yeah, it could be up to 300. And so I gave him a rough estimate of what the size was. And, you know, they can do solid structures. And I think that's what would be the most expensive. But I believe they can also do individual ramps. However, when you pay for the individual pieces, then I guess overall, that can be more expensive than just doing a whole solid piece. So.
Jeff, what's in the CIP request is in 2029, so that's 300,000.
For 2029.
Yeah.
So I will say that State Park is not going to hold up till 2029.
CFP is not finished.
Okay, but so at the bare minimum, something needs to be put substantial to the skate park. If you don't want to go the route of cement, it really does need to be addressed and have something more than just $1,000 put at it, because it's a structural safety issue, I would say this time.
For the $9,000, does that include, so for the design, is that just the design of the ramps and how the skating aspect would be, or does it also incorporate design of the park kind of itself? Because I mean, I've seen a lot of these concrete parks and they can be kind of more than just the skate aspect. There can be a lot of like benches and it kind of incorporates in the landscape. Does it incorporate that stuff as well, or just?
So I believe they can do that. So if that's something we want to talk about in landscape, maybe we just want to do that sort of thing ourselves. I'm happy to leave this with you. So what they would do, just quickly, site review, they would do community engagement if we would want that. Design revisions after they get some feedback, creating a cost estimate. And then they have the final design. And then that is but I do believe too, because they are, and I want to say, it's been a while here. And they do have like different designs that he did quote, and they all range in price. So, I mean, you could go much smaller. So he says he was not able to find any designs under 100,000 that would be anywhere near what you have now in terms of size. And then, okay, but I do think too, because they are coming from across the country, I think they're also incorporating the travel expenses in here as well. So I'm happy to leave this with you if you want to look at this. But it's just a general, like I just said, just saying what the $9,000 would go towards, so.
The 300 for the entire redesign, did that number come from them or did that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so he did quote a couple different designs, just smaller design packages. So really, now this was over a year ago when I talked to them.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm guessing that price doesn't even hold now.
Yeah.
So,
The existing park, was that funded through a budget item or was that funded through a?
Donations.
There's
no warrant article for it?
No, but then it's been piecemeal held together with donations at different times.
Also, I did not look into estimates for replacing with wooden structures. So I'm not the one who maintains this. I don't make those recommendations, and really buildings and grounds could have easily submitted this. It's just, I happen to kind of do administrative work to make the phone calls, find these things out. So it would be, you could probably get more information from talking with Dan about his suggestions and why he believes that the concrete would be best.
Do you, and this may be a question for Dan, which is fine. Do you have any sense about whether there's interest in the community to make donations to repair the skate park?
So we can put it out there. When I first came on, we had an issue with the skate park, and Sarah was a select board at the time, and she took on the charge and really spearheaded fundraising. And through GoFundMe, I forget, maybe it was like $12,000 or something. She raised quite a bit of money. So we were able to purchase a lot of skate light at that time. So that was, what, 7 years ago now?
It's like the plywood.
Yeah, it's like
But
that.
it's
Special.
right.
It
It
is.
has to conform
Okay.
to the park.
So that was just done about 7 years ago. And since that time, we have just been, I know I'm not answering your question yet. And since that time, we've just been putting like $1,000 here, $1,000 there. I just had a volunteer want to do a little bit of volunteer work on it. And I do get people who want to volunteer. The problem a lot of times is they don't come forward with $20,000 and manual labor at the same time. So, if we put it out there, I know Sarah did it pretty easily in about a month. We could try that again.
I think part of the issue with that is, skate lights, $250 a sheet.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to install it, you could destroy a couple $1,000s in an hour. And I mean, I'm not telling you.
I think that's what happened. They did a big fundraiser and did that, and a lot of volunteers. And then that was before you came, and when you started, we ended up having to replace some of that.
It wasn't skate light that they used, and it had cracked over the winter. So, and so on your point is that when, not all volunteers might know how to properly install it, but the problem too is now, the frame is starting to rot. So it's not even, they're having a hard time getting the screws to even screw in and stay. So,
And some structures have been removed because they're not.
So I would say, I think it would be great to have the money come in if we did have a donor. But I think having volunteers do the work is maybe not the best option. Just for that reason, it is a kind of a finicky material. And I know that, the buildings and grounds guys have been doing the work, the repair work, and I'm not sure how they feel about having that time available to do substantial work down there.
Can you just touch a little bit more on the special events? I know you mentioned it, but I might have missed it. But so $5,000 for special events, like what does that include? Like examples of?
So for instance, July 4th, the turkey trot, Santa's breakfast.
So how come it's zero? What has
So
been the last?
the rec committee has never asked for funding.
Oh,
So how we have funded events in the past, mostly until about a year or so ago, was it would always come out of revolving fund program funds. So the rec department would work hard to generate a little bit of money and then fit into events. In the past couple of years, we've had a couple sponsors that have sponsored some things which have helped tremendously. So in just keeping in mind too, that the rec committee, Santa's breakfast and turkey trot, all the funds that we raise from those two events we turn over all of it to the Human Services Department to fund their Operation Holidays or their fuel or whatever. So it's not like the rec committee is, you know, doing these events to get something out of it themselves. You know, they're doing it solely for the enjoyment of the community. They love the community. And they also do it to generate funds for the Human Services Department. They've been, not quite sure how many years they have been a committee. So over a decade,
The
you
rec
know, the rec committee, 12 years, a lot longer than that, 15.
Plus.
20. Before there wasn't even a rec department, there was volunteers working, putting on events.
Because there were a few directives.
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. And then just on the Kimball Pond, I know we spent a lot of time talking about this last year. Do you think, I mean, I am picking up that we still had issues hiring, but do you think like the fact that we bumped the pay made a material positive difference, or do you think you would have had issues? Or I guess if we kept it the way it was, like, would it have made a difference? Do you think that bump actually helped or?
I feel like I might have lost a couple people if we did not pay
Okay.
higher, because the year before, when we already had the budget set and I was locked into paying $9 an hour, and I could not go any higher. They were asking, hey, I could go work here for $10.50. And I was just kind of praying that they did not. So
Okay.
I think they probably would have left, yes.
Okay.
Do you know if at this rate, we're still competitive with the communities around us for lifeguards?
I think so. And I still think we are in decent shape compared to what other communities go through.
Okay.
And so I will say too, which I did not say, but the conferences and training, $2,000, that is used solely for the lifeguard conferences or trainings. The conferences and trainings, $2,000.
Oh, backward.
Okay.
So that is used for the lifeguard training. So not only and I've been doing that for a couple of years to help them cover the cost, because it's $450 to get a certification, which lasts for 2 years.
Okay.
No, actually,
Okay.
everybody else. said
All right.
the question.
Nothing?
Sorry.
Oh,
Want me to find it?
All right, well, thank you.
All right.
Paula.
thank you.
All right, next we have Anna, Economic Development.
Page 40.
Hi.
We're almost scheduled.
Yeah, we're a little behind. Sorry about that.
No problem. This should be good. The only things that are changing, the Economic Development Committee is requesting $1,500, $1,500 for professional services in the coming year. So this would be for engaging, for example, UNH has various programs in their economic development extension department or other similar services. This wasn't funded the last couple of years. There was some in 2020. To be honest, I don't know what it was used for at that time.
Mostly engineering for the sewer work.
2020? That's from 2018. Oh, maybe it was part of MTAG still.
That might have
Maybe in
been.
the final, yeah. So similar, like a Plan New Hampshire program. So to be able to take advantage of those types of programs, 1,500 there. And then in, this is the bottom line, yeah, okay. Community relations and outreach.
line, they are requesting to go from $1,000 to $1,500, a little increase there. This is in the past few years has been used to support events that the Chamber of Commerce has put on, which have, drawn folks to Kentucky Village. And so it was used to support the concerts, end of summer concert series. And now that has taken on its own momentum and is now fully funded by sponsors. And this year, we got a request from them to support Starry Spray Weekend, which is also, which is a new-ish event coming up December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Similar event where it draws lots and lots of people to the downtown. I don't know if anyone was there last year. It was very popular. So the idea for this has been to sort of give, some catalyst money to events that draw folks to the downtown. So that was this year, and we would like to, the committee would like to ask for a little bit more there in order to continue to support that type of event. And then the other part of it is printed materials. So as we sort of take on more projects, as the Economic Development Committee profile grows, there may be a need for some outreach materials. So that is the extent of our request.
Anna, could the economic development professional services, could that $1,500 be split with the TIP district?
It would really depend what it's being used for. If, in theory, yes, if there is something that is going to be directly impacting one or the other of the TIF districts, then yes. But that is hard to say at this moment what it would be used for, so.
Would it have to be spent within the TIF district?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so TIF
But
funds,
only be spent.
right.
Are there any grants that you're in the process of applying for or you're aware of that would help in economic development in town?
In general? Or specifically to cover?
Well, both. I'm thinking, okay, one, I'm gonna have to defend this budget before the budget committee. So to the extent that you're seeking grants to offset costs here, or you're seeking grants that are, augment more economic development in town, either way would be helpful to understand.
Sure. So a couple of things that we have applied for and received, I can share with you. We have been, one item is we've been pre-approved for $250,000 in ARPA funds to install a solar array at the sewer station, the wastewater treatment facility, sewer plant, which would completely cover the cost of installing that array and then would into the future indefinitely provide electricity for the sewer facility, which is one of the largest municipal energy users. So that's both, helping to offset the energy costs there and reduce that.
Well, do you have any kind of a timeline on when that may be installed? Is it in 2023?
It would likely be 2023. The final ARPA application is due in January. That would have to go up to bid. So there's a bit of a process there, but that would be 23, possibly 24. So.
Sewer electricity is about $22,000 a year.
And just cross that one out of the budget after next year, hopefully. So that's one. Another, the grants that we're applying for are things that, you know, would fall under the town budget. We're looking for funds to offset what the town would otherwise have to budget for, to reduce the overall cost share to the residents. So.
But do you have any other examples?
Sure, another one is that we have been approved for is we applied for recreational trails program, which is to create a linkage in the Concord Lake Sunapee Rail Trail. There's a little parcel of land that leads off of Kearsarge Ave, sort of near the high school, into where the historical rail bed is, and then links over to Houston, the Houston complex. The cost to construct that trail, which from what I understand, the town has wanted to do for some time now. The cost to construct that is in the $80,000 range. So we've been approved for 74,000-ish. It's an 80-20 match. So Concord Lake Sunapee Rail Trail folks are going to be helping to coordinate the in-kind and there's hard and soft match for that. So they're going to be helping with that. But so that's another, you know, $75,000 that the town doesn't have to spend on creating that, which will really help connect the high school and the library facility. It also will be used by snowmobilers who are coming down from the Stevens Rail Trail. They'll be able to get much closer into the village to be able to fuel up at Clough, come and use our, you know, restaurants and services downtown when they're on their snowmobiling journeys. So another one.
Well, rather than put you on the spot, if you think of anything else, just pass it to Neil and he can pass it on.
Before the budget committee, we'll put together a chart of all the grants we've applied for, where their status is.
That makes it much easier than my asking questions.
Well, the other one I'll highlight, we talked with Dan this morning about it. There are a couple of culverts that need to be replaced, and there is a significant amount of culvert assistance money right now. So that's another one that we're looking at. So there, he mentioned two that have it's the culvert grant program is for grants that have like wildlife value and significant aquatic species travel. And these two that he mentioned that are falling apart that need to be replaced would fall under this category. So that's another one that we'll be working on.
My question is a bit more mundane and probably more accurate for Kelly. This budget has $2,728 for 6.2% FICA. That's 12.5%.
Sorry.
In the line 220.
So half the salary is paid by the TIF district.
Yeah.
And half is paid by the budget, but the full FICA is in the operating budget. Oh, is that?
So we had 11.3% year to date, so something's off.
Oh, the year-to-date spending. Here's where I'm sorry.
Year to date FICA on line 220. If you do the math, it's 11.34%. Not 12.
There was some catch up we needed to do. There was a little bit of a payroll issue that happened earlier. So it would be off by payroll so far.
Okay.
Good catch.
And
Easy math.
when did the position start?
Sorry?
February.
February. So there was a whole January, we didn't have any expenditure.
Right, but I just divided the year to date by the year to
I
date
see.
salary.
So is the TIF district for 2023 picking up half of the Social Security?
No, picks up half the salary.
And
all of the
not social security.
All of the social securities.
Can we assign them with half the social security then?
Probably. It's one of those.
Thank you, Jeff, for pointing that out.
Anything else for Anna?
I'm good.
All right, thank you, Anna. All right, next we have library, Donna Dunlop.
Page 38.
Hi, Donna.
Hello. Something we did this year, we haven't had a brochure in quite a while, so I thought I would take this opportunity.
Lovely.
And focus on our, sorry about
Okay.
that. Carrie, you need one too. I know. Our tagline, which is a community building that builds community. It sort of tells our story, sums it up.
It's very good.
Thank you. And just very quickly, we've had in October over 1,400 people through our doors, and that doesn't even count the people doing curbside pickup. People that is still a very popular program. That's probably over 200 just using that, and computer use is really up also. That had really been down, over 70 instances of our computers being used. A lot of people use it for their home office. So, I mean, that's very active, and people are really using our community spaces, the local history room, the study rooms, and the community room. Just very quickly, I know we need to get on to the numbers. The budget is fairly flat, just something over 2% increase, 3 lines going up, 3 lines going down. Line going up is computer services. Because our the people who manage our online catalog, which is really our bread and butter, that's how people access information about our collection, those costs went up, and therefore obviously that line went up. So that's up to 6,300. We continue because of the energy saving commitment that this board has and things we were able to do after the lightning strike. We continue to be able to control our electricity costs, and that has been a good thing. Like the rest of the departments in town, we're certainly going to be hit with increase in fuel oil. We're not using more. We're still estimating that at 4,750, but we're now going to be paying the $4 per gallon. There is an error here. I'd love to blame the fact that we're using the new software. I probably need to blame myself. So I based the water and sewer estimate on the actuals in 2021 at 557. So I budgeted at 600, and I see that my 2022 year to date is 876. I need to talk to Kelly and Neil about that. That does not seem right, and I shouldn't be bringing that up here, but that number will be different. So it's not going to be a huge hit to the budget, but I need to understand that. I'm not sure that 876 doesn't seem right to me. Other lines are flat. Last year, you may or may not remember, our equipment repairs and maintenance line went up significantly. We budgeted up to 8,000 because we added preventative maintenance contract, because our HVAC system is over 20 years, and you guys appropriately questioned that, but I don't think anybody really disputed that we should have a preventative maintenance contract. The board of directors spent a lot of time talking about that, and we agreed that we would put half of the new preventative maintenance contract fee of $5,150 into this budget line, and that we would pay for the balance out of other library resources. So that line won't be increased the way we presented it last year. And other lines are flat. Custodial fees are down some because the cleaning company that we use actually uses a lot of their own cleaning supplies. So we're not taking as big a hit there. And everything else is flat. So it's just 2 and change as the increase to the budget. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay.
Ken?
Just for my information, the library part-time wages is going up. Is that more hours, a rate per hour increasing?
It is, we're needing to cover weekend and evening hours that we weren't open the same during COVID. We had really reduced our hours, so we're coming back to where we were hour-wise.
And when during the year did you go back to your prior normal schedule, let's say?
Really back at the beginning of this year, the beginning of 2022.
Then when I look at heating oil,
Yep.
year to date is only $7,600. Is that through September or October?
Would have been whatever was through last week.
Yeah, up to last.
So up to September?
I know that I have had bills in October. I mean, we had two deliveries in October. So, but
Because it just seemed that it was very different than a request for 19,000. I was wondering if
if you can predict what October, November, and December are, we got to cover our hell.
First week of November is warmer than.
Frighteningly so, I agree. But
Heating contract was at 198, and now it's at 209. So
we have been working, I think, probably talked about this at every budget hearing. Since I joined the library 15 years ago, we cut our fuel usage in half by better managing our system. So we are still really trying to be conservative, but we don't want to be stupid and not put enough money in because we can't predict what Mother Nature is going to do.
That's very fair.
consistently have used $4 a gallon throughout the budget. That on all diesel is at 6, gas is at 4, and number 2 fuel oil is at 4, and pellets, I believe, is at 250.
I wasn't focusing on the dollars per gallon. I
No,
was
with
focusing
the
on
usage,
gallons.
right?
And you didn't talk about it, and but there is in the CIP budget, place 2 air conditioning units
Yes,
for 95,000. What do you have now for air conditioning, and what's the
we
situation?
have the air conditioning units that came with the building 25 years
They
ago.
weren't replaced by the fire.
No, they were not. That was the things that happened that were fire related were all within the 4 walls of the building. The air conditioning units were on the outside. We had to have some maintenance done on connections and on the air handlers, but not on the air conditioning units themselves. We have 2 separate ones, a small one that governs the community room, and then a large one that takes care of the rest of the building. So that's what we're getting the general maintenance on now. And the report from ENE, our contractor, said they have recommended that we not proactively replace the units, even though their days are numbered. They have said we should put aside money because they could go at any time, basically. But I'll counter that with saying they were really robust, very good units when they were put in. And so they have focused on the fact we had general maintenance just this fall, and they said they're still holding steady. So we're in sort of a perplexing, we need to be ready to replace the units if they go. The real concern is they're saying that it could take us a long time to get in this climate and for getting equipment. It could take us a long time to get replacement units. And the board has actually talked about, well, maybe we should just replace them. And that's a conversation we have at every board meeting. That's not what our contractor says. Our contractor says they think that there's still life in them, but they're hedging their bets. They say they could go tomorrow.
And for,
What would your advice be? Proactively spend $95,000? I have 3 trustees here who would love to talk with you about what your recommendations are.
there are other organizations that support the library that have funds available.
So, yes, they fund our programs. They don't fund our general operating costs. And if you don't think the HVAC system is a general operating cost, I'm not sure if the other organizations that support us that we depend on. It's why we don't really have any programming line. And yet we have, I'd argue, a pretty extraordinary roster of programs, the summer reading program, programs for kids, programs for adults that we don't go to town for because of the generosity of donors. We haven't gone to them for general operating costs because it's really not appropriate. That's the town's responsibility.
In terms of the smaller unit that you mentioned, could you get mini splits instead? Would that save money? Would it be sufficient?
On the smaller unit? We can ask, we can ask our HVAC company that's.
I understand what you're saying, though.
I appreciate that. Other.
This is just out of curiosity. I see the subscriptions, there says a note, the line is not increased in over 10 years. Is that one that is supplemented by other groups or?
We have. I have worked hard at that. We used to put a lot of money into our reference collection, a lot of money. Reference materials are very expensive. We don't buy them anymore. I sort of hate to admit that, but that really helped us control costs. We do get support from the foundation for online content. Our online use, again, went up 25% from this October versus last October. So people, but our print circulation is holding steady. It's not that that is sinking. People, there's a whole population who still want to check out books. But that 25% increase in borrowing of online content it's extraordinary. I keep thinking it's going to stop and it's really.
COVID bounce back.
Yeah, it didn't bounce back. I mean, it keeps going up even with. It's a good question.
Thank you.
We had a lot of magazine subscriptions. We have far fewer magazine subscriptions because we have a lot of online content now, and we were finding that magazines just weren't going out as much.
Yeah.
So there are places we tweaked and tried to hold steady.
That's great. Anything else?
Donna's mad at me.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you. Very nice brochure, by the way. I like that. All right. We're only 30 minutes behind now. So this brings us to executive IT, assessing legal community services, patriotic purposes, and general overview.
I would last because this.
Mhm.
That's your estimate.
What page are we on, Neil?
We are on page
11.
Okay,
page 11.
thank you.
Executive, there are actually any changes here. One thing you will notice, I'll note right now, that you will see throughout is the retirement rate is dropping on July 1st. Partly, I almost wish it wasn't because I think right after that, the market tanked. So we'll probably see a huge increase in 2 years, but this is where it is. So that is reflected throughout all the budgets.
Okay.
So that is a drop. Telephone is up. Changes. So we have one more phone in this building. Executive memberships. Oh, and conferences and training. We overextended that line. This covers not only people in this office, but the Waste Reduction Committee is actually why it's over, because they went to a training. So we hadn't really budgeted for that. I think over the COVID years, we had lowered that line too, because people weren't doing that. Printing continues to drop. This is the town report. I think we hit the right number last year. We had been decreasing every year. So it seemed like they all went within the boxes and boxes left. We've probably dropped, I can't remember how many we're at now, but I think we're at close to 2,000 way back, and now we're at 600.
2,000 copies?
Yeah, and prior to that, they used to mail it to every address in town. So my understanding is they were stacked in the post office because people didn't take them home. So and of course now they are fully available online, and that seems to be the way. I hope people are accessing them because a lot of effort goes into that. So
Yeah.
people are reading them. So advertising is up just because the cost is up, and this covers our public hearings and those types of things. Executive dues is down. I had been doing for quite a few years the ICMA, which is the sort of the national managers, and it just doesn't seem like we're getting, it's not worth the money. So I took that out. Town meeting expense is the same, office supplies are the same. This is the same, and website administration, we did add the EDC website, and we also have the Trails website, which are all covered here. So the total increase is just under $3,000, which is 1.23%. Any questions on that one?
I don't know if it's under this one or not. And I don't anticipate it, but if the Energy Committee were to incur any costs, would they come
need
out
to
of?
do fundraising.
That's certainly one answer. The other is,
It's been a lot.
would they fall under the executive, the select board expenses?
They could fall there, yes.
Okay.
But just before they start, we should let them know they don't have a budget, so they need to be.
That's, yeah, no, that's, I, like I said, I was not anticipating any expenses, but if there's to go to some out of town meeting or something where you get travel costs.
Conferences and training would be covered under that.
Okay.
Anything else on?
It's the typo under your telephone explanation. It says 2,000 a month, it should be 200 a month. The first line of the explanation under telephone.
Oh, okay. All right, IT is next. This is the same. We went up $1,000 last year. We've been 41,000 for a long time. It was about 6 years ago, or 6 or 7 years ago. We switched companies, and we had been at 41,000 for a long time, and they were going to go up substantially for our yearly contract. And that's basically why we switched. And so we've stayed pretty constant. So that is the same, and that seems to do it. We balance, it used to be computers were budgeted in individual department budgets, but now we do it so we can rotate. Like this year, we did do the server in this building, which is more expensive pieces of equipment.
Is that the explanation for the 26 grand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the bottom line will be fine in that budget. Sometimes that happens in these. Because actually IT computer services is way under budget.
Got it.
Because that had servers listed, right? But those wouldn't have been there.
Yes. So, yeah. And so we may have put like the computer replacement, all the service to do that under, we probably put under computer replacements. It's
For computer services, 1,400 a month for 12 months is 16,800. Not 15,800 as requested.
Oh, I should update that too.
You have to cut your budget 1,000 something else.
Well, no, because
Take it from the energy committee.
yeah, I think
I should shut
I
my
think I
mouth.
moved the numbers around without necessarily updating. In assessing.
Well, this software licenses, one place to show total of 16,200.
Yeah, there's the $2,000.
Oh, okay, so we're 1,000 ahead again.
I'll update. The numbers are correct, the descriptions are.
Okay.
I spent more time on my own descriptions than not everyone else's. Any other questions there?
Does any of this include for insurance in terms of like what happens if we lose data or get hacked or something like that? Does that go in insurance or is that?
That's under property liability insurance.
Okay.
And we are part of Primex, and actually they have a whole cyber thing, and I've been doing their online trainings, and they keep us well up to date.
Okay.
Going on. The library actually had ransomware a few years ago, and that was pretty much covered.
So do they pay the ransom or do they pay for loss or what?
I think in their case, they didn't, the ransom was not paid.
Okay.
That we were able to switch over, but I think they did some replacements in software.
Got it.
Software type stuff.
Okay.
If I remember right. Next is assessing. Here. Are down a little. Registry of Deeds, we have not been using that as much, so that's gone down. Record storage does, the more stuff we put into the more we pay for this, for the space. Professional services are the same. And online assessment cards.
I have a question on professional services, and I don't know if Stephen would have more knowledge about it. Looking at the San Souci contract utility assessing, wasn't that didn't the legislature or the courts decide how the methodology for assessing, and do we still need San Souci? or to the same extent?
They still review all of that and go through and inspect it, and that also includes all our cell towers.
I was gonna guess that figure probably goes beyond just, electric and phone and those categories where the legislature did enact some sort of formula. But that's a good question.
Do we have a contract with his firm at this point?
We've had an ongoing contract, yes.
I'm just wondering if the amount of services they have to provide is reduced because of that court ruling or legislation.
I don't know, frankly.
And we pay beyond this amount for a lot of that work during that time.
I mean, I don't know, Neil, what your sense is, but there's not a whole lot of options in terms of getting those types of assessments done in the first place. Just not a lot of,
It's just someone out there.
other entities out there.
But I made a note, I'll go pull that contract and take a look.
Okay.
So there, legal is next, which is dropping 45,507, which is good. That was the settlement payment. Also, what we're talking about, that are PSNH amount that we were abating also ended this year, so we are done with that also. So that lowers our overlay. We're only abating half this year, so we had already lowered our overlay for this year, and then we'll lower it again. I think it's about 57,000. That will go
And that's why overlay is proposed to drop by 50,000 or something.
because that amount was being abated. And legal is where it was so far this year.
Yeah.
Not going with, we have not used it, so that's good. Next is community service, page 34. Which is capped. Which is 5,900. We've been paying cap 5,900 for. It might have been 5750 when I started, but that changed soon after, and it hasn't really changed since then. And as we heard, cap does provide substantial help to Hopkinton residents. Patriotic purposes is the band for the Memorial Day Parade and the $2,700 we've been paying for a long time for the Hopkinton summer concerts.
Where's that?
That is on.
Oh, there it is. I found it.
So my first year, they had decided to cut that and look for donations, and then nobody did any fundraising. And at the end of the year, the board said, "Oh, you better pay it." So that was.
So the band members actually get paid?
Not the band, no, but it goes to the band, it buys music and
Oh, okay.
so that's kind of where that's at. So that's been in there since then. We'll go back to government buildings, which I left off the list maybe because I'm trying to ignore it. 94. So pretty much electricity is going up across the board. It's page 19.
Thank you.
So it's the electrical rate is going up. Basically, it's double. So for the actual power. So that is figured in here. So you will see that all the electrical lines. Heating oil, there again, we were budgeting at 2, we're now maybe 250. Now we're budgeting at 4. Really, the consumption hasn't changed on any of these. So those are up fairly substantially.
Neil, the budget for the fire station says 4,800 in the notes, but it says 3,000 in the line item.
To this new software.
Same for Slusser Center.
Check those. All right, check both of those to make sure. Propane use at the Slusher Center has dropped substantially. They really haven't been using the fireplace, so that saves there. And they also have a new kitchen stove, which doesn't run the pilots constantly. Those pilots, you could boil water on the pilots running on each of the 8 burners. So that was using a lot of propane. And building repair maintenance is right, put that up. Dan could answer that better.
And the pellet numbers for the fire station and garage are different than the explanatory notes as well.
Check that. I think the tonnage. So let me check.
Okay, so these might just be copy paste over.
I think some of those, the numbers didn't change, so
So they just carried.
maybe the descriptions didn't get updated last year after the changes. So basically, government buildings is up $15,000, which is 11.39%.
Do you know, Neil, how much of that 15,000 is electricity and heat increases? I think it's substantial. So
Yeah, I think most of it is. Let me break down.
I can't answer that, Stephen, but I was looking at the overall operating budget increase of 525,000. And I figured that over 100,000 of that relates to just increases in utility.
wow.
It's over 10,000 of that increase,
Yeah.
2/3.
Yeah.
At least 2/3.
Thank you, Jeff.
Well, and you're gonna see it even more in the highway budget.
Oh, yeah.
Hit diesel. And we've changed, we started at $5 a gallon, went to $5.50, and then when we all sat down, Jeff and Dan and I decided we better put in 6, and I'm not even convinced from what we're reading right now. That will be a good price, but we'll see what happens. The state, we do get some of our diesel, fire department gets all their diesel from the state. And they are going with the rack price. They're not guaranteeing the price anymore. We've been paying $1.98 gas up until November 1, and then it jumps to rack price also. So that's going up substantially. So we've been lucky that we haven't seen the fuel increase in gas yet, but well, we have the last week. We haven't done the bill yet.
And rack price, it's still, it's whatever the gas stations would be charging less tax.
Yes, I think that's exactly what it is, pretty much. And that's from the state. There again, this gas and diesel, the state won't guarantee. Won't guarantee any. So kind of overall, at the moment, everything in there, which actually at the moment includes, you'll have a lot of more discussion with Dan next week about road projects and things like that. There are Briar Hill's 3 miles and it costs about $1 million per mile to redo. So that number is stuck in here for discussion purposes, which is a good portion of that overall increase. In general, looking at the operating budget at initial department request coming in at 6.5, I thought was a pretty good place to start. I think we've started in worse places than that. And as you went through the budget, for the most part, as you said, $100,000 of that is just fuel or utility costs. So that's kind of where it's at. And I think a lot of the discussion, CIP committee has met 3 times. They are working hard. There were there's some sewer proposals, and I was a little unclear. So last week, that was the week before, I had Sam bring the engineers in, sat down with them, and Dan and Sam and I went through things, and they're supposed to be providing numbers. I don't fully have my head around what has to be done, what would be nice to be done, and what the cost of all that, and when these things have to be done. And they're supposed to have those this week, and then CIP will meet again next week and review that. So some of those things are still more up in the air than I would like them to be. CIP also was hit with the increases, largely in vehicles and things like that. For example, we were scheduled to replace the forestry truck this past year, and it was Jeff had budgeted $58,000, and that was going to buy the truck and equip it and have it ready to go. And now the cabin chassis is $58,000. So if you can get one. So those things, I think those are going to be a lot of the things that have to be figured out, and we're going to go with some of that. It's really the capital, things, the budget, probably less so.
When Anna talked about potential grants for culverts, would that reduce the $1 million for Briar Hill significantly if we got that?
I don't think they were talking Briar Hill culverts, because the big ones are all done at Briar Hill. Pretty much the little ones that need to be replaced, we can do ourselves.
On the top there, it's 2021 approved? Or is it 2022 approved?
It's 2023 proposed, 2022.
Got it.
Approved.
2023. Cool.
I really am using it.
Great. There's a lot of things in here.
Part of the problem you'll see is I melded our old spreadsheet, which like this page up through here is our old spreadsheet.
Right.
And I had to take the totals from the new and put it in. So some of that.
Oh, no, I meant there's a lot of things in here like not, that are not wrong. There's like, your percentage of wrongness is very small.
Margin of error.
I don't really like any.
Yeah. Wait, but so back to that page though, there's a decrease of 60,000 for the pay by bag special revenue fund.
That hasn't been entered. That, both the senior center rental fund, Slusher Center rental fund and pay by bag. I don't have those figures, but it doesn't really matter because on this sheet, it's income and revenue and it's a wash because it's a separate fund. So it doesn't affect the bottom line. So I just leave it 0 until we know what those are, if that makes sense. Right, this line right here.
No, sorry, yeah, but does that number come from this year's revenues or is it
Yes.
our projected next year's revenues?
This year's revenue.
Okay, got it, cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, so this is where that revenue
Sorry.
and what goes here equal each other, so they
Yeah.
balance out.
Yep.
At the bottom of that page, valuation, do we get to pick which 2022 number we want?
Oh, well, I was consistent. The bottom number is a proposed 2023 number.
Seems like a pretty low increase for a year of strong building.
It's that's the 0.5% we've been using, so we can do that. It is a fairly small.
Has the budget committee taken up
And actually,
that topic yet?
not for 2023.
The previous.
Neil made a presentation about, how it's developed and all, was it last?
It was last month.
A terrific presentation. And, we missed the 0.5%, we were 0.4 or thereabouts. And it was because of a particular property on Clement Hill Road.
Okay.
Really blew it out of whack.
Okay.
Because there was actually a decrease there because there had never been a fair market sale.
Oh, yeah.
So it really was overassessed. And then when it sold at a fair market, that was pretty clear. So that the assessors went in and adjusted them. So that lowered our.
Otherwise, we would have been considerably below 0.5%.
Yeah, and I would expect, given a new house permit today and the houses that are going up throughout town, you should see that impact.
And there are no staffing increases in terms of number of staff?
No, this is all current staff. We are a full staff. So there may have been places budgeted knowing we were short-staffed.
Last year, how short-staffed were we?
Well, we started the year down 3 police officers and down 2 highway people.
So we're coming in at less than a 7% increase with a substantial increase in staff.
But a lot of those were budgeted for anyways.
Got it. Okay.
We expected higher.
We expected higher, right.
But in some places
Right.
like health insurance, we may have only budgeted half a year for some of those positions to be filled. And this year we budgeted.
Got it.
And Thomas said the merit increase of 6.5% is in the 6.5% increase in the operating budget. So if you pull that out.
Yeah, I didn't know when we were gonna have more discussions about that, but
That's
a huge thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
so that's under personnel administration.
Because I mean, that's like
Yeah,
150K.
167 when you include fringe. It's a third of the increase.
Right.
And I'll certainly ready to defend that if necessary.
So that merit pool increase that's budgeted in here, that comes into effect next April?
Yes,
Okay,
and that's the way it's 6.5% of all salaries, assuming they go up that percentage. The pay period beginning closest to April 1st. And that line amount there includes both salary and benefits. The whole amount is,
just to confirm, so I have it super straight. So on each one of these different accounts, there's budgeted for the personnel at what their current salaries would be.
yeah,
And then next April, that amount would be increased. So each of their actuals are going to be increased by the merit pool increase. And so their actuals are going to, next year when we see this book, their actuals are going to be larger by 6.8% than their budgeted.
yes. We allocate, we don't pay out of the merit pool line. We allocate the merit pool into the regular budget after it's allocated.
So. Right, okay, so like we have planning director at X amount. And then next year, we should expect that budgeted amount to be increased by whatever the merit pool increase is this year. And their actual next year is going to be about that same amount.
Yes, yeah. And why you see, like now you see an increase in that line from,
Yeah,
it's the January
yes,
through March
okay,
amount that we've added in for 2023.
Yeah.
That wasn't there in 2022.
yeah,
I think the year before I started, they gave raises January 1st. They did not pass a town meeting and they took them back. And that just, you can debate whether there should be raises or not, but you should never do it that way.
Give them and then go to the voters.
And then, yeah, so that's why we do, and if you're gonna give them, then you need to commit as a board to cut something else.
Yeah.
Once you give them, I think, which is why we don't give them until April 1st. We do not retroactive them either. They start April 1st. Some towns wait and retroactive, but that just seems like, I think the way we do it is better.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We don't have public comment on the agenda, but this gentleman's waiting.
Oh.
That's up to say.
Are you here for public comment?
Not to the budget. Just
Oh,
if there's
oh, okay, sorry.
some other things.
Sure, are we?
Just one question, Neil, for budget committee meeting Wednesday, will you have October financials available?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Too old now.
Whatever, preferably both, but if you only have expenses, so be it.
Yes, expenses and still working on the revenues, I think, in October. They're not reconciled, but they're in.
Okay, as we've done in prior months, if you have it in advance, send it out to the committee and make hard copy of the summary page available. Thank you. Now I'm done.
All right, thank you, Neil, for that whole section. Okay, so we don't have public comment on here, but the fact that you've sat here and waited, please.
Earn public comment.
Yeah, come on up.
Sorry, I didn't do it before. My name is Glenn Tobias and 734 East Pennacook Road. Did I hear correctly? Bridge is going to be open on the 11th?
Yes.
Very good. That's a long time. One thing regarding the stuff happening on Pennacook Road, it's terrible, again. Have the police been able to do something, find people? I'm not interested who and not knowing about that, but it happened. Something are the police doing something about it and looking?
They're investigating, yeah.
Okay.
They're investigating.
That's good.
Sorry, yeah.
That's gotta
Stop before it gets worse. Next, the skate park. I don't know much about it. I'm not a skater myself, and my son's not even here to skate and things like that. Is that still a park that is really used to justify its existence? It's a real, but I don't know. I'm not a skater, and I'm not trying to say it's gonna go or anything like that. Just, is it really used by a lot of people to justify its use and repair, which obviously has to be repaired, and also the liability question too?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's.
I think those are very fair questions. I was thinking the same question myself, actually. I felt like I would table it for further discussion, but I don't know the answer, but I think it's a very good question.
I think there's almost always people there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It seems to be a variety of people from young and parents up.
Yeah, when it was first established, it was widely recognized as the best skate park in the state.
Okay.
It was constructed through private donations because a couple of young boys who were into skating happened to get killed up at one of the ski mountains.
Mhm.
And there was a fundraising drive to create that in their memory. Paul is right, it's 20 years old now, and I'm sure some of the wood frames being in the weather, all subject to weather all the time.
And also, is it, I'm not saying all the kids are just playing on their phones and things like that, but it's a
There's a lot of kids that, and adults, I mean,
yeah, I'm shocked at how many people I see there.
yeah.
Almost always there's people.
I would add that I've been there with my son and met people that travel from all over the state to go to it. So it's not just town residents. It's actually a draw.
Good. That answers that question from them. I thought it could be a way to maybe cut some money and then you.
Fair question,
But if it's not being used, but it is being used, that's great. Next short thing is every town has, when you come into a town, has, it's almost like its sign. I'm not saying you have to have a sign, but coming from the north on 127, 103, before you reach the town border is what I call the junkyard. We've talked about it before, and I passed by it tonight again, and it looks terrible. It's a terrible sign, an invitation to visit our wonderful town here. And we talked about it, I think, a couple of years ago, actually. And I've actually gone, it was last year, and talked to the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Protection. I believe it was the people that take care of the environmental side of things, and said, this looks terrible. There's so many cars there. Could there be an oil leak going into the groundwater, and into the Warner River right behind there, 50 yards behind there? And he hadn't really heard of it yet, but he's maybe talked with you. I gave you your address and name, and also the other surrounding towns that are involved with it, to get some information so he could inform himself. And they actually went out there and took a look at it and said, no, they couldn't see right away any environmental things. So that is not that angle that we can get off. If it was, they could shut the thing down immediately. That's another story. But still, it's a junkyard. It's a terrible visiting card for this wonderful town.
Isn't it not actually in Hopkinton?
It's actually in Warner.
Yeah.
I know it's not in here.
I see.
It's right on that border.
Right, yeah.
20 yards behind, to the right of the highway, looking north, is the town line.
Yeah.
Right behind there. If you look on Google Maps, you can see it and it kind of disappears after a bit, but it's a disaster. I know it's been going on and we can't do much about it, but I thought I'd bring it up again.
The scary part for me is 20 years ago, that guy used to run a restaurant in town.
No, that's the scary part is that they still run a restaurant at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I know Warren was pursuing it, but had been to court. Those are frustrating things to pursue for towns.
They not try.
I'm just thinking also, it's so close to that on the state, it's a state highway, right?
Yeah.
Right there, and it's right on the line, practically on that line. It's, everything's just a little bit away. That something can be done from that side of things more, but
yeah,
I can't get involved in that. Last short question. Are you also responsible for methane content at the transfer station, the old landfill part, I think there's these J tubes that stick out. And I believe that's methane. Is it captured? Do you know? And if yes, is it part of the town's thing or is that a state or how is that run?
If there's methane, it's not captured.
Yeah, well, is it, it's venting
Yeah.
methane.
And we do have test wells and test the groundwater. That's.
Yeah, we know there was some problems there too, but I'm just thinking about the methane stuff. Is that something the town does? Or is that something for the town or county or state or?
You mean capture for energy use?
Yes.
That could be super interesting for the energy committee though.
Yeah, thank you for suggesting that. I don't know where it could be piped to though.
Yeah.
There's different ways to, I don't want to take too much time now. I can speak with you, Ken, about that. If you'd like, because I'm bringing over technology, not to do that, but from Germany, where I used to live, bringing it over here to do mechanical biological waste treatment. And in this whole thing of all the waste, instead of going to a transfer station, you can treat it, but here it's too little. There's not enough waste treated. But there's other companies that I've gotten involved or heard about that do methane capture, can either take it and convert it to RNG, renewable natural gas pipeline, or change it to use for other things. And I can talk to you about that. We're taking too much time here. I think it'd be interesting because methane gas in the atmosphere, methane is 86 times more potent than CO2 as a greenhouse gas. Yeah, and that's a real number in a 20-year lifespan of methane. That is really bad. And
if you have some, general information that thinking of, why don't you email Neil and he can send it on to me?
Okay.
I think that's the easiest, but I think that this could be a win-win.
It could be. There's one company, it's a French company, but they're very strong in the US. They can take such methane, they will put a box at the place where it's being made. They will operate the box, they own the box, and they will maintain the box. And all you have to do is supply them with the methane. They will work together how to get that over to that box. And the output is a very clean RNG, renewable natural gas that could be put in the pipeline.
It is, there is no pipeline here.
I know.
And I think our amount is relatively small. I don't think our landfill is.
They'd have to look at and see if there's an act to do it. And
They could use it to heat the transfer station though. They burn like diesel oil and stuff. Take whatever.
could be, if it's enough. I don't know if it's enough to do it. There's also another thing that I heard recently about it, where they can take renewable energy supplies like natural gas or like turbines creating electricity or waves, whatever surplus energy that's not being used otherwise, not from the grid, not from the gas line, not oil or diesel. They would take this energy, put it into a box as well, and power servers to create cryptocurrency. Very interesting idea. It sounds silly and cryptocurrency, oh, it's a big thing. But if you're using only surplus energy that can't be used otherwise, why not use it to do something that could bring some revenues to the town? That exists, a company exists that does do that. I'm not representing them, so not a project push there. But it could be an additional revenue for the town and saving the greenhouse gases going away. It's my thought, Neil. I'll
Send that over, yeah.
Are you here tomorrow at all?
Yes.
Not at the voting place, right?
No,
Okay, I may come by. And talk to you about that.
or send it over.
Good for you. It's a better place to be.
I'll be voting tomorrow. That's for sure.
Good. Well,
Great.
thank you for waiting patiently and for your thoughtful.
Well, thank you very much also for a very interesting meeting here. I remember my first time was with my dad. He wanted to say something with Dan Price, one of our neighbors in Pennacook on Flintlock. And that was some years ago, even before I moved here. And they wanted to say the thing, get out. I wanted to sit and listen.
I appreciate that. I love that energy.
Next week we'll be here at 5:30 again.
Well, I won't be. I'll be down in Massachusetts, but I'll be here tomorrow, do a few things and then head on back. We can talk.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here to know you and how this works very well. I like, and I've watched a few times online in the last year or so. Also very good.
Good, excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has-
Oh, okay. Hi, Louise.
Be able to unmute yourself.
Got it?
Yes.
Hi, yeah.
Yeah. So aloha, I should say, because I'm in Hawaii.
Beautiful.
Thanks for
That's
another,
cool.
Get off
yeah,
the
another
meeting.
week and a half. So I have a particular interest in on a couple of budgets. That's why I kind of logged in. So I guess I want some clarification on a couple of items. So I think it's under maybe Neil's budget, where they were paying for concerts. Now, I was, oh, wait a minute, I'm running out of battery life, of course.
Purposes.
So, yeah, so now is that just for, like town functions? Is that? Because I think I asked.
That's specifically the town band for the, is it 5 or 6 concerts they do in the summer?
Yep. Okay, good. And then Merle Dustin had left, some monies to pay for bands as well.
That is correct. Not this year, but other years we had expended some of that for the end of summer concerts.
Okay.
But we didn't expend any money out of that fund this year.
Okay, and so is that a fund that I could request funds out of for, like, say, I don't know, something that the rec committee, one of our events that we do and we hire a band, is that a fund we can take from or not? A request from, I should say.
We want to look at the requirements. It may require it to be at the bandstand, but I don't remember, but we could look at that. Because there were very specific things it could be used for when it was established.
Okay, so that was one question. And the other question I have, would you please, someone give me a definition on the community relations and outreach line item under the Economic Development Committee? What was that fund established for originally? Maybe Steve, you can answer the question.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm looking at it right. That was established, I mean, when we created, would that predate the position?
It does.
Yeah, so it's been in there for.
I think the first thing it was used.
It's been in there quite a while, I believe.
Yeah.
I think they had a the first time I remember that line appearing and being used, they had a speaker come in who may have done training on marketing for local businesses or something.
Yes.
It was an event held here, but that would have been in the Bob Gersony era. So that was probably 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they had it at the library, if I remember correctly. And I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name, but yes, I do remember that. So, is that line item going to continue to be used for economic development outreach to help businesses? Or are we now changing that for event promotion?
No, it's still under the economic development to support and outreach to businesses.
So then why do we expend the monies out of there for events?
Is there a particular event that you're thinking of?
Yes,
I think
I was listening. I've been listening to, like I said, the budget presentation. And it was said that 1,000 came out of there to pay for the upcoming Starry Weekend that's been around for quite a few years. And that you're going to be increasing it to 1,500 so that you can continue to promote more events. So I was a little curious how that got twisted around to promote, helping to pay for events versus using that funding for what the original intent was, and that was to promote economic development committees, what they're doing, how they can help, other businesses to like promote the types of things and programs that they're doing, like, downtown in the Hopkinton Center. I thought that monies was for that. So I'm just curious on that.
Well, Starry Weekend is kind of that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it
that's-
is business centric. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, I mean, that was gonna be my response, is that the EDC voted to use it on Starry Weekend because it was promoting an event that drove a lot of people to Kentucky to visit all the businesses that are there.
But the event itself, which is a kind of a, if I remember correctly, is a joint thing with multiple different people that bring that event together. It's not
It
just,
is, it's not just the
Yep.
town, it's the Chamber of Commerce
Yep.
and perhaps some other entities too.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
all right. So again, so I guess my concern is, and when I saw this, it kind of raised the hair on the back of my head, because I've been around a really long time. I've been on a lot of committees, and I've been to the board only a couple times to request funding for anything, and I've always been told to figure it out. So I found it interesting that the town's committees that brings a lot of events, or brings a lot of good to the town, and we're not supported. We're not financially supported. We're not kind of like not really given the recognition. And a lot of committee members feel that same way. It's like we work our butts off and we're not really acknowledged. So I just thought, and I feel it's unfair that you're giving money to a business group, but you're not giving monies to your town committees.
So Louise, just for our benefit, what committees are you talking about?
Well, remember we had a centennial celebration a few years back, 5 years ago? And that I came in on 2 different occasions to talk about it, so that the first time was, hey, it's coming up, we should get geared up and, budget some money towards this. And that didn't happen. So I was on a committee and we had to, raise all the funds for a town celebration. In fact, we had to reimburse the postage for the monies to send the letters out. I came and asked the board on the Kimball Cabins and for dirt, because it was an erosion problem over at Kimball Cabins. And it's really not what we were there for. It was to fix the cabins. And we had to pay for the machine in order to get some dirt. And that, probably got maybe 2 inches of topsoil out of that, which required us to go over and water that grass, because we had a very hot, dry season. So that committee was over there twice a day, every day for weeks, to get that grass that would grow, because we didn't have enough soil to keep it moist. I can go on and on and on about all the ways the town, different committees have done things to promote the town of Hopkinton, to bring people into the town of Hopkinton. The cabins, that's 8 years of volunteership and getting donations. And that's a huge benefit to the town. So again, I question how a line item that used to be for promoting just that committee's, what they were doing has now changed to giving money to a business group for one event where the rec committee does many, many events throughout the year.
I think, well, there is a budget, there was a request for the rec committee to get money directly as part of this operating budget.
Oh, I know that. Yes, I know. Yes. So I'm gonna be interested. I'm gonna be very interested to see how this all turns out.
But I guess my other sort of response, Louise, is that, you know, so that money does go towards Starry Night, but you know, the money is going to put on the event, not to pay or provide any money directly to the Chamber of Commerce. It's to support the event.
Can I ask a question?
Right.
So are you trying to say that we shouldn't have money available to the Economic Development Committee for these types of things? Or are you saying that we should have more of these types of funds for events for other committees as well?
No, I'm saying that if there's money going to be in that fund, it should to promote economic development committees only, what they're doing. So say they're going to be doing a study and to get that information out to the public, if they're, whatever they're working on as a project, and they want the community to know about it. That's what that money has, I believe, had always been intended for, and that it was never to be given out to other groups, because when you think about it, how many people do things in the town of Hopkinton that bring people into town? You got church groups who do things, you got, HISA, I mean, they bring people to their games, and, they go downtown and buy drinks and, get snacks on the way home. There's so many different groups that also do good for the town of Hopkinton. And I think you just need to be fair for everybody.
I think if there's another event or, group bringing people into town that you think should be the beneficiary of this funding, I would say, come talk to the Economic Development Committee and we can talk about, dispersing the funds differently.
I think you missed the point, Steve. I don't think that money coming out of the Economic Development Committee, I don't think that money should be given to any group, only
I see.
for that group to use for what they need to promote themselves.
Okay.
Because you're there as an economic development to promote more growth in business within the town of Hopkinton, not promoting what's already, a group that's already here, because that kind of stuff should be promoted on their websites, list events if you want to list all the events on the EDC website, fine, but to hand out money for that type of thing, I don't agree.
Okay.
Thank you for your input, Louise. I think we'll probably be having more discussions about this when we get to, more in-depth discussions about each department's budget and what money's being used for. So thank you for that input.
Yeah, it's just, being on a lot of committees over the last 30 years and have seen the Economic Development Committee and the types of work they have done over the years. That was never, ever that I know of, the intent of any of that kind of money was for that. So it's just opening a can of worms. Basically what I'm saying is open up a huge can of worms.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that perspective.
Thanks, Louise.
Okay.
I hope you enjoy Hawaii.
Oh, yeah, I am. Thank you.
Your commitment to our meeting.
Sorry. No, this has been on my chest for a while, so I figured.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm
I'd
glad
rather
you
say
stuck
it to you
around.
guys.
All right. Well, thanks, Louise.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Appreciate it. All right. You too. All right. So I think that,
That's,
Do you have another one?
hold on, what do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're good with budget issues for tonight and we just have election review. I assume Louise does not want to talk again, but
Want to make a check?
I guess. She. Committed. Louise, are you trying to talk?
Nope.
Okay, okay, good. All right, thank you.
Yep.
So election review. I think we all know what's happening.
Just everything's set to go, we're pretty much set up. If you're sitting around with nothing to do, feel free to take the booze down. Not the ones with the stripes, but the other ones fold right up. We can stack them, the stanchions can go in and out that back door. So
Okay.
I just throw that out because.
Wait,
Not the ones with the ones that are on the 4 poles,
Yes, those can come down and fill.
take the poles off too.
Up. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to do that, but
We did it last time.
Yeah.
Didn't we do that last
Yes,
time?
we did.
not last time.
No, we didn't take the poles off.
Yeah, no, they were all still set up when I.
No, we just folded down the plastic cases.
Yeah,
And so all the stanchions, we go in the door, that back corner door
yeah.
that goes out onto the apron. So if you want,
Okay,
if there are people there with. nothing
Looking
to
for
do,
things.
No, we did that.
so,
Because we'll be there at 7 in the morning, the next morning. To get
I
everything
see.
out of there. And the quicker I can get the highway crew in and out before school starts.
Okay, that's good to know.
But that's,
Okay, so I'm planning on being there at 6:30 per the moderator's request. I know Steven's out and Jeff, you're gone too, right?
Michigan tomorrow.
Okay, so Thomas, Ken? You're around what's the day?
Yeah, I'm gonna be there. I'll be there early and then I'm gonna have to take kids to school and I have
Okay.
a thing, but then I'll be here all afternoon. there.
Okay, yeah, I've got a couple meetings I have to go to in the afternoon.
Yeah, no, I'll be off and on and
Okay,
Deb Norris is my backup.
awesome. Okay, perfect.
be there at opening,
Okay,
make sure everything's set. But I'm not planning to.
You vote already?
Just because
yeah.
I think I can get more done here. Like you need something.
Jim O'Brien's gonna be there. It'll be like the
Yeah,
olden
he's
days.
my
Yeah.
designee.
He said he wasn't coming till 7 p.m.
What's that?
7 PM.
You better check with him.
You know,
Yeah.
police are there
Yeah.
most of the day, if not, yeah, yeah,
Chief especially will be there a lot.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's considering, let's say, the volatile atmosphere, you see on commercials and all that.
Oh, yes,
Whatever, we're talking about
yeah,
politician. But some people are saying, okay, we're gonna be there, we're gonna do something, only not in this, but. Definitely there.
yeah, I know. Well, we're lucky we've got a lot of good dedicated people who help run our elections here, so thank you to all of them. Especially Sarah and Carol. So, all right, so hopefully things will go smoothly tomorrow and I'm just hoping it's not quite as late as the primary, but we'll see.
It's only one ballot.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
much, and no audit switching and.
Yeah,
Don't want it, hopefully.
well, it's, hopefully there's no audit.
It'd be pretty weird if we just keep getting.
I know,
Move to adjourn.
yeah,
Second.
No questions like that.
thank you.
Nope.
Yeah, there's, well, we've got two.